Four Nights of the Apocalypse chapter 146 is out, and this was another great chapter. All in all, these chapters have just been straight up bangers after banger, every single one. And this chapter fully concludes the family drama, and we get a bit of really nice and heartwarming moments involving Diane in this very chapter. But before we jump right into things, don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the notification bell for updates on future videos. Really helps and ensures you guys enjoy the content here on the channel, and it shows you want to see more. Sorry if I sound a bit off today, I kind of have a cold, so try and deal with the rabbly voice. But with that out of the way, let's get right into the chapter. Chapter 146 of Four Nights of the Apocalypse, titled Love Melting Curses Like Ice. And the cover page is Sixtus against the Chaos Knights. And that is all we will see of Sixtus in this chapter. So yeah, this chapter we don't cut back to Sixtus whatsoever. So we essentially get a snippet of his fight as it literally just begins. So we'll just have to wait and see, probably next chapter, to see how things progress. But the chapter starts off with King facing off against Kelbigan as he summons Spirit Sphere Chastifold's fourth form, Sunflower. And in that instance, as Sunflower rises up from the ground, Kelbigan tries to use double casting for two magic shields and two dragon-style magic abilities to create a magical shield. However, it doesn't do all too much as Sunflower destroys it effortlessly and burns and even bloodies up Kelbigan. King says that wasn't really much of a smart plan, saying, yeah, you did well to control Myrtle and sneak into the fairy realm beneath the shadows, but that's where it ends. Did you really think you could seize the drug from the king of the fairy clan? And Kelbigan states, and do you think you can undo the curse of Myrtle without that drug? As he snickers. King goes on to say that he's not worried about Myrtle as he's strong of heart. He knows he'll break the curse that was put on him. But Kelbigan states that it's doubtful, because what he casted works on his mind. It's a craving curse. Anyone caught by it cannot be freed until his most fervent wish comes true. And he states that, do you know what Myrtle's wish is for? He detests his human body and wants to be a fairy or a giant, just like his siblings. As Kelbigan states that it will never come true. He is human. Thus, only the drug of yore can remove the curse upon him. As this shocks King as he thinks about Myrtle. As then cut back to Myrtle swailing about and hitting Diane as she is protecting the kids. Diane cries out that Myrtle doesn't want this, but Myrtle tells her to shut up as he continues to slash right at her with his whip arm as he then draws blood. Ziliana asks Diane why she's not using heavy metal in this instance, as she then asks Zana to go off and do something, as they both run away from the battlefield. Now, I like how this whole not bringing up heavy metal thing is shown in the story, as this essentially confirms that Diane isn't trying to fight back or do anything to make this into an actual fight. As we then cut to the next page where Diane's dress is cut up and she is starting to bleed, as she says, Myrtle, I'm sorry. I know it's hard for you, knowing the truth and all. As Myrtle shouts out, so you admit it, as he slashes at the ending, again at her head this time. And this is probably the coldest panel of Diane I have ever witnessed in my whole life, as I know this is just her accepting the brunt of her son's anger and vitriol, but you can't tell me that this image of her isn't just cool as all hell. Tiori cries out for her mom as Nazians is wondering how he can get out of Pollen Garden. But Tiori says that this is a part of the Spirit Sphere and it's one of its forms. The only one that could turn it off is King. And they're kind of stuck in there until things cool down. As Myrtle goes on and continues to wail at Diane, stating, years worth of lip service you've given me, and now you abandon me the moment your real son shows up. As Zana and Ziliana manage to show up with Diane's sacred treasure, Gideon. Okay, I'm not gonna lie, it's nice seeing this sacred treasure again. I was hoping we would see this in an actual fight, but now is not that time. Zana tries to get Diane to use it in order to teach Myrtle a lesson. But Diane just waves them aside and says, you know I can't do that. Myrtle continues to whip and wail at Diane as he has a maniacal laughter going about him. As he states, do you hate me now? Does that hurt? But my heart's been battering and beaten far, far, far more, as he continues to hit Diane. Tiori says stop. My mom is going to die. Now the way this speech bubble is positioned is kind of odd, so I can't exactly tell who's saying this. I think it might be Nazienne's, but it could also be Tiore also. And it says, now I'm seriously concerned for her. I'm going to assume this is Nazienne's. So let's just assume it's Nazienne's being concerned for Diane. But Diane says, I want you to listen. As she then begins to inch forward more and more towards Myrtle. Myrtle tries to push her away, telling her to stay away. If you hate me, just abandon me and run away. Diane then goes right up in front of Myrtle and looks him square in the eye, as she then hugs him in a really wholesome panel, holding her child like a mother would, as Myrtle tries to get her to let go as he claws at her arm. Diane says, on the day when we had our first child, we fell victim to a changeling crime. We all searched so hard, but we never found our child or your parents. I was shocked, inconsolable, not because you were human, but because our own newborn child had vanished on us. But as we raised you, our feelings changed. We saw it as God wanting us to have you instead, and we knew the child King and I had was being raised to be just as kind as you somewhere. And she's right. Ordo did raise Nazienne's incredibly well. So, in that instance, she was right. Though it does fully confirm that they were searching effortlessly for Nazienne's, but for some reason they just couldn't find him. And it could be primarily the reason that Nazienne's, where he was being raised, was pretty close to Camelot, and they couldn't probably risk going to that area, for all we know. But that's just me crackpot theorying right now. But it shows that they were searching for Nazienne's and that they couldn't really find him. And so, as they raised Myrtle in his stead, they began to love him as their own. And so, they figured, we have to raise this child, and for all we know, where our firstborn is, they'll be raised to be just as kind-hearted as the boy that we're raising right now. Diane then says that they wanted him to have a healthy life in the fairy realm. As she states, that's why King immediately gave him the drug of yore to take. So this 100% confirms that King did in fact try giving the drug of yore to Myrtle when he was just a baby. So look, I know I've been doing these King is a bad dad or screws up jokes in my last couple of videos. Were they overdone? Yes. Should I have stopped about a chapter or two ago? Also yes. But I thought it was funny. But that changes as we finally got the full-on confirmation that King did want to give the drug of yore and did give the drug of yore to Myrtle in order to help him so that he would have a healthy life in the fairy realm so he could live with his new family. As this shocks everybody. But Diane says it didn't work, as the drug has the power to heal illnesses and break curses, but it couldn't transform Myrtle into a fairy or a giant. So yeah, I kind of figured this would be the case. I was considering the fact that maybe it would help him adjust to the fairy realm if he didn't take it yet, but I'm glad we got the full-on confirmation that it could only fully work on illnesses and curses. So, even though it was stated, there was always the option that that could have happened, but this does confirm the fact that the drug of yore wasn't going to work on Myrtle. They tried, it failed, and that's how it is. So the king being a bad dad joke, let's just put it off on the wayside, because he has been a pretty good dad. He just tends to overthink things or not think things through in certain aspects. And due to what has been done and what he has done for his kids, he probably didn't think anything of it about trying to give the drug of yore to Nazienne's and help him with his research. He just should have thought a bit more about it. But in King's defense, he didn't really need to fully think about it all too much. But continuing on, Diane begins to apologize, saying that what they should have done was spare no effort to track down Myrtle's parents. But at some point, we just gave up on it. I'm returning you to the human world. After all, this whole time, you were Mom and Dad's very own child, and probably the most wholesome panel of Diane in this entire series. I am not gonna lie, this almost had me tearing up. Heck, recapping this, I'm starting to tear up myself. Nazienne's just staring off at what he is witnessing as the rest of the kids are reacting in smiles as to what Diane has said. As Myrtle says, really, I don't care what I am, as he begins to shrink down back into his true self, as in tears he states, I just wanted to be you and Father's son. I just wanted all of us to be family. As everyone then smiles, as they now have their big brother back. As he then hugs Diane's finger and says, Mother, I'm sorry. as Diane cheerfully says, "Myrtle, thank you for coming to us." As the chapter ends, with an image of Tayori and Nazienz in Pollen Garden as they stare off at Diane after reconciling with her child. And that is the chapter's end. I'm just going to say this flat out. Diane is the best shonen mom. Hands down, I will not hear anything from it. She took the anger and vitriol from her cursed child and managed to bring him back from the brink with honesty and with love. I am not going to say anything of it. This is true. And if you disagree, too bad, because I know I'm right on this. Or not. It's your own opinion. But yeah, that was the chapter. Relatively quick, no real fight. This was just Diane coming to terms with her son, his feelings, and fully revealing the truth about him being human, and that they gave the drug of yore to him when he was just a baby, but it didn't work. So giving him the drug of yore now wouldn't have done anything whatsoever. The family drama of the Cayenne kids are finally resolved, and now King is going to be taking down Kelb again, and Sixtus is going to take on these Chaos Knights. So the next chapter is probably going to conclude that, and we might get Nazien's full-on confrontation with the truth that he is King Leanne's child, and that they more or less kind of abandoned him. So let's see how that goes, because that's just a whole other can of worms being brought up. But I'm pretty sure Nazienz has come to terms with the fact that if he didn't end up being abandoned, he wouldn't have met Ordo, he wouldn't have been raised by Ordo, and he wouldn't have met Percival and his friends. So he's probably come to terms with everything by now, but I do think if he talks to King and Diane about it, and they come clean to him, it'll fully resolve itself, and Nazienz is a pretty understanding person, so I do see this fully coming to grips, and everyone being fully resolved with Nazienz meeting his real family. But I can't wait for the conclusion of this arc, because we're going to get King's final fight and Sixtus' final fight. So let's see how things resolve in this instance, and will they manage to steal the drug of yore for Arthur? Leave your thoughts and opinions in the comments section down below. And if you haven't already, like and subscribe, hit the notification bell for updates on future videos. Really helps, and it shows you guys enjoy the content I make here on the channel and shows you want to see more. And with all that said and done, I hope you all have an awesome day. Diane is the best MILF in Shonen. I will not hear otherwise. This is fact, this is truth.